Story ending.
Here we go.
Things. Can anyone hear me? In the back. Back. Are we good in the back? Up? We're good. We're good. Okay. The thumbs up. It's difficult. Alright, so welcome to Mount and Thistle. Our February installment, kind of Valentine's Day. I think Erik might be talking about cannibalism, so it's fitting. I'm glad you guys can make it out. I know some students, some new people here. What we try to do is put together poetry, fiction, music, fun stuff like Jacob Powers playing. Up first, we're going to be having Chris Klingbeil from read fiction, but this. Elizabeth Lester Barnes is going to be introducing Chris. So, please give a round of applause for him.
Well, I'm glad everyone could make it out tonight. It's good to see everyone here. When I first asked Chris to give me some information about himself, I asked for a resume when he asked me to introduce him. I was expecting sort of the usual stuff you get in resumes, like I was born here, I did this, I graduated from here. But instead he gave me this fabulous email, and I just have to read it to everyone because it was such a treat to read. So, my real life resume includes, but is not limited to, having lived a quarter century. I resided in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Idaho, Utah, swam in 2 oceans, been a frequent visitor to Canada, have on more than one occasion been confused for a homeless person. I have on another occasion discovered that my standards for acceptable uses of silverware, namely sticks and fingers, are lower than that of a homeless man's. I have held in my hands a freshly delivered and warm placenta. The woman it was once inside I have never met. I have in person noted that a cadaver's muscle looks much like old turkey. I have been within 10 yards of wild moose, elk, bear, and the ever-ferocious ruffed grouse, to name a few. I have constructed a 12 by 16 wooden hammock frame within the confines of my Boise apartment. I have successfully hiked the same canyonlands where that rock climber guy that had to self-amputate his arm climbed. I have hiked the AT as confined to the Great Smoky Mountains. I have befriended a man who routinely wears and constructs his own buckskin wardrobe. The government has paid me to walk through the woods. I have driven across country solo twice. I have not yet accepted the notion of accepting permanent employment. My potato soup is to die for, and add whiskey to, or the potential of, to any of the above events, and you might well know me. A better way to describe Chris than his own little bio. So, as you can see, he's a fabulous writer, and you are all in for a treat. So let's give Chris a big round of applause.
Everybody hear me all right? How's this? Is that better? Yeah. Talk like this. All right. So I'm gonna read a news story to y'all. So I think I'm mostly all right with that. And it's sort of a ridiculous story. It's a bar story, essentially, I think. but it's Saturday night, so what the heck. And I don't know that I need to say too much else. So this ridiculous bar story is entitled Bum's Fireside and Other Adventurous Bouts of Courage. Bill talked about his life as if it were a perverse Bob Seger ballad, his tales of love growing exponentially more ludicrous with each shot of whiskey. Yet, in a way, this had always made sense. Bill looked exactly like a young Seger, shaggy dark hair, a black goatee, stout build, very Midwestern. She had a stride long and strong enough to shake the room, he told me. It nearly cut me in two one summer night. I was drinking more than usual, trying to keep pace. At this rate, we were bound to do something stupid very soon, which was, after all, why I had called Bill and asked to meet here at Bum's Fireside Bar. It was not the sort of place a guy chanced upon. A cinder-block shack, its walls always dark and sweaty. It lay tucked behind a series of looping country roads, deep into the woods of my hometown, some 75 miles west of Milwaukee. Tonight was Christmas Eve. I had left Kayla, my wife of 6 months, at my parents' farm, trying to exact some revenge for her for all the recent weeknights she'd been going out without me in Milwaukee, sometimes even to Chicago, learning how to blow glass or dance the tango, or, on rare occasions, simply to get sloppy drunk. She had been growing more and more tangential to me. And it hurt to know that I couldn't join her on her little escapades. I mean, hell, I wanted to learn how to blow glass too, but I also needed to pull in the bacon for us both, and for that I needed to go to bed like a normal person. I needed to be alert at work. I could not afford a foggy head and shaky hands, which, as a first-year lab tech at Dow Chemical, could prove very detrimental. You know all those photos of napalm Vietnamese children, their faces half melted off? It was all I could think of. For the past 6 months, I've been having nightmares about rotund Wisconsinites at backyard barbecues, everyone groaning over the way their skin fell off their elbows while they grilled bratwursts and twisted the tops off of cold beers. And so learning to dance the cha-cha hadn't seemed so important lately. But all of this, of course, was not my real reason for being here, slumped over the bar at Bum's Fireside, Bill's gruff voice droning on beside me. I had been more than nervous at work lately, sure, but the real reason for that, the true reason for everything leading up to now, if you want to know the truth, had to do with Kayla's failed pregnancy. For 2 straight months this past summer, she missed her period, and our nights together, that first month especially, involved a lot of sweaty pacing around the apartment, talking in circles about whether or not we'd keep it. We weren't yet married at the time, had only been seeing one another for 8 months. And while all the take-home pregnancy tests kept turning up negative, we held our breath nonetheless. Then July passed, and 2 separate home test kits revealed a pink plus sign. We started thinking about baby names, pink or blue wallpaper, diapers. We went to the doctor, confirmed the pregnancy, and then drove across town and got married by a justice of the peace. I became absolutely terrified of wind-up teddy bears that sang nighttime lullabies. And then, 10 days into our marriage, Kayla sent me to the grocery store to buy more tampons. When I returned home, she was still sitting on the toilet and weeping. Naturally, the doctor apologized profoundly, said it was a misdiagnosis, not a miscarriage, and that the whole thing somehow had to do with stress. Because I didn't cry as hard as her, Kayla held the whole ordeal against me. She blamed my good job in the city, the chemicals I worked with, claimed I was bringing them home with me, their fumes still on my hands, in my hair. And then last week she dropped a bomb on me, said she had accepted this obscure job translating data for a Nordic folk arts school in northern Minnesota, some no-name town 600 miles north of here. She said she needed the fresh air of Lake Superior to calm her nerves, and that she would be leaving with or without me. The choice was mine to make. Earlier today we had driven to my childhood home to say goodbye to my parents. Now I was ordering another round of whiskey and wondering if Kayla was worth following. I was wondering if I could handle the adventure. Bill here, I hoped, might be my dress rehearsal. But beyond his sexual exploits, he didn't seem to have much to offer. She was a mountain girl, he was saying, tall and dark. He elbowed me in the ribs. All of them mountain girls are basketball champions, somehow or another, he said, and the cowboy boots. He rocked his head back, his eyes half closed, relishing the bar's substratum of cigarette smoke. My God, he said, you have got to go west, Jake. You don't know a woman until you've had her under the kitchen sink, the kick of her boots against a stack of your dirty dishes. I hadn't yet told Bill that I was married. He'd never met Kayla. Maybe he never would. She was currently splitting a bottle of cheap vodka with my mother, the two of them hunched over the kitchen counter, acting as foolish as Bill and I were now, only, I assumed, happier. And that was the other thing that stung. This notion of wrenching us from our friends and family had made Kayla happier than I'd ever seen. She had never even liked my mother, but when I had left her at my parents' house, Kayla's dark face, already a yellowish pale with drink, my mother's burning red. They were spilling out secrets like schoolgirls. Secrets about me in diapers, me as a lover, me as the darling prince who would follow his young wife in his Minnesota wild, all of it slopped out in slurs and giddy laughter, laid across the very counter I had been served oatmeal to before catching the bus to grade school. It was a very unsettling time of year. The skin of the pleather stool I sat on now was cracked, cotton stuffy and pushing through while Bill continued chattering. He kept digging his elbow into my ribs. Hey Jacob, he said, you know Kelly Green, right? It's my favorite color, I said. Bill held his sides, his mouth to the ceiling as if to vacuum in the smoke. No, he said, Kelly Green, we went to high school together, among other things. I hadn't seen her come in, but as Bill leaned back on his stool, she leaned forward on hers, twirling her shoulder-length strawberry hair in her fingers, smirking. Her chest hung over the bar, held back only by a shirt that looked made of spandex, the same color as her name. She was a curvy version of the scrawny girl I'd once dated sophomore year of high school. Holy shit, I said. There was nothing else to say. Kelly Green fixed her ocean blue eyes on me for a long time then, and I finally raised my shot glass and mumbled out something like, looks like we're all colliding our worlds. I was drinking too much now. Kelly rumpled her nose, looked to Bill. Bill motioned for the bartender with one hand, slapped me on the back with the other. Jake here is on his way to Minnesota, he said. That's what you mean, right, bud? He looked to Kelly. Or he leaned into Kelly. My face was low enough to the bar that I could see Bill's hand brush her thigh over jeans. That's why we're out celebrating, Bill said, a little going away party. Kelly leaned into Bill. What are you going to Minnesota for? I was drunk enough to admire the way Bill composed himself around Kelly, the way she clung to him like I had once to her, and I had to flush out the image of me as a gangly and scratch-voiced kid being led around by the wrist. So I said the first ridiculously important-sounding thing that came to mind. I'm a water chromatologist, I said. I'm measuring the color of water. Kelly twirled her hair some more. Isn't water all the same color? Bill clarified, no, honey. I've seen water greener than your shirt and water as greasy gray as this bar. He thumped his fists against it. And if you've got the explorer's itch, he said, jabbing an elbow into my ribs, like me and Jake here, if you've got the itch, you've got to go. I nodded mightily to agree. There's all sorts of watercolors that I've never seen, I said. Pollution has a lot to do with it. I was fairly certain it was a made-up profession. Bill slapped his big paw on my back. We live by a different code, don't we, buddy? Me and you, he said. He was nearly hugging me. Then, as if suddenly spooked, he sat erect, careened that fat black goatee of his toward me and glanced over his shoulder at the pool tables. I turned and looked with him, couldn't guess what he was scared of. Just a pair of old-timers, their faces like melted wax, chalking their cues, talking about the weather. Bill returned his attention to the bar, slapped down $20 and clapped his hands together. All right, he said, I've got to go take a shit. When he walked out the front door and out toward the bathrooms, Kelly looked at me with wide eyes, her mouth split open and almost pouting. She looked like she was hoping for something, maybe waiting for me to make a move toward her. Then she leaned across Bill's vacant seat, her hair swinging forward. She stared me in the eyes and in a very sad and quiet way said, I'll bet you got a girl, don't you, Jake? I'll bet you got girls everywhere in Milwaukee. On the drive out here, I had stuffed my wedding band into my jacket pocket. Now I looked to my naked fingers atop the bar and thought about how I had one girl with so many interests she was everywhere but home. And for a second, I was about to tell Kelly exactly this, perhaps simply to see where it might lead, but as we kept on staring at one another, her eyes took on this droopy and wounded look that suggested she knew that she hadn't been a kid for a very long time. She was wearing about 10 pounds of makeup to hide whatever lines and cracks she built into her face while running around with Bill. Both of them stuck in this podunk town out in the woods. Then Bill burst back into the bar, shouting from the open doorway, "Are you two lush birds coming or what?" We each turned, said what, and Bill laughed, said that's what he thought, and turned out the door, waving for us to follow. Outside Bun's fireside, the clouds were breaking up into gray battalions, each as big as ocean liners and low enough to touch. They had cemented the parking lot beneath a foot of snow. Kayla's Omni looked like a sort of anthropological find half dug from the white earth, its windows and doors black as mummified skin, and the only indications that there was indeed a car parked there. None of these country roads would be plowed. Having to drive home mostly drunk was now the least of my worries. Bill grabbed Kelly Green by the waist, squeezed the sadness right out of her, and they pranced from the bar to Bill's 2-ton hunk of truck, scooping together snowballs and lighting them through the air at various other snow mounds that were vehicles as hopeless as mine. Kelly Green swung up onto the running track of Bill's truck. "Come on with us," she said. From the opposite side of his truck, Bill poked his dark face out from behind whatever was standing in the bed like a humpbacked man, the bulge covered by a big blue tarpaulin ringed by all the snow. Bill was grinning like an idiot, not even an emphatic yes. With the roads this full of snow, with Kayla and my mother in no condition to pick me up, my father sleeping the little he could before his morning's chores on the farm, this was now my only option. The last time I had hitched a ride with Bill, merely trying to get home from a high school football game, we ended up in an abandoned cheese factory off County Road X, where Bill chased after a nest of fox snakes with a set of amateur throwing knives. Now my stomach felt like a peach pit. Kelly Green's sad misinterpretation of my love life had me thinking about what an idiot I was for leaving my wife on the one night she had been excited to stay with me. My head was ringing with whiskey, and all I wanted now was to simply go home, to crawl beneath the sheets and feel the warmth of Kayla's backside. So while Kelly Green sat scrunched between me and Bill, her legs not at all close together with the gear shift before her, Bill turned the key for his truck's enormous diesel rattle, and I wiped my coat sleeve against my window, hoping Bill had suddenly grown up. It took only long enough for the windshield to defrost before Kelly said what we all must have realized, but chose to ignore, this being rural Wisconsin and all. She said, "It smells like a barn in here, Bill." "Manure," Bill corrected, 100% cow shit. The rubberized floors of the truck were shockingly clean, nearly polished looking in the white glow of a snow-filled night. I hoped for the best. "You take on work as a farmhand these days, Bill?" Bill looked like he had an orange slice in his mouth, grinning before the glow of the dashboard. He rubbed his stomach as if playing patty cake with it. "Oh, God," he said, "I have got to take a load off." Kelly Green rocked back and forth between us. "Well, come on then, let's go," she said. "I'm freezing." Bill slipped the truck into gear and we rolled from the lot. The snow was slow wakes spitting out from beneath the tires. Bill turned left then and I groaned. "My parents' house is the other way, Bill." He kept driving, shifted between Kelly's legs for second gear. "This is the shortcut," he said. "We're driving across the river. Save us 20 miles and the chance of running by a cop." He asked, "Your parents' place is still in the valley just across the river, right?" I said that it was, unhappy to know that Bill was correct. The river ran parallel to the series of country roads that I had taken to the bar, and so simply driving across the ice was in fact a shortcut to my old farm. But aside from skirting a possible DUI in town, which was at the head of the river, the third point of this triangle that included my parents' farm and Bones fireside, this was, very possibly, a very stupid idea. No one drove the river anymore, not since we stopped getting snow in November and the daytime highs started averaging 10 degrees above normal. I couldn't help but ask, "Bill, are you sure the ice is thick enough to hold your truck? I mean, it's probably not safe. I don't know about any of this." I had images of blue lips and bloated skin the color of watery milk. I thought of Kayla in a black veil weeping on the toilet at my parents' house to escape the chaos that would be my funeral wake. Rapid drumming of children's feet rushed down the hall before her outside the bathroom door. Bill gripped the wheel with one hand, wrapped the thick fingers of his right hand around Kelly's leg and said, "Well, Jake, I do know about this. I'm the one who has to live here, still, dealing with all this small-town shit. I know all about this." He swung his face my way, his brow suddenly low and dark. "Or do you want to get out and walk instead? Maybe freeze your ass off in the snow?" When I didn't say anything, Kelly leaned into me, the metallic strawberry scent of her hair making me choke. She said, "I just try to think of it as a sort of adventure." She ran her fingers up and down my arm. "Sometimes it's even fun," she said. "Fucking right," Bill said, now obviously upset. "This is the Chronicles of Bill and Jake right here, chapter 1. And Kelly Green," Kelly said. She feigned some level of instant excitability known only by strippers and began riding between us, performing an erotic dance above the gear shift. Bill reached past her, flipped on an old country radio station and started thumping his hands against the wheel, and it was all I could do to keep from leaping from the moving vehicle. Eventually, the tunnel of snow-coated hardwoods we'd been driving through opened up, split like a gaping mouth, and the road slid down a slow hill before widening into a big square lot for launching boats. The river sat like a fat white rope before Bill's headlights. He turned the radio down, and we just sat there for a minute, letting the rumble of his truck break the silence before Bill said, "We'll just gun it. Drop the hammer, be on the opposite side in no time." I thought of hammers against thin ice, didn't like the sound of his monster truck tires sinking in the snow on the incline toward the ice. But then Bill hit the gas and we shot onto the snow-covered ice, a sound like fireworks popping beneath the chassis as Bill then started snake driving, whipping the truck's back end left to right, revving the engine while Kelly squealed her delight, pinballing between me and Bill. Her strawberry hair was flying everywhere. The dark trees along either shore were whizzing by. It felt like we were rocketing down the inside of a cannon, the roar of the truck's engine grinding higher and higher before Bill shouted something drunken and guttural and floored the brakes. The truck made a hard slide left, the tail end bouncing wildly out of control, Bill's hands diving frantically over the wheel to right the ship before we broncoed up a boat ramp on the river's opposite shore, knocking our heads against the cab's roof. We were parked at the edge of some new subdivision I hadn't known existed, and for the moment I felt lost. At the base of the boat ramp was an abysmal lack of snow, a stretch of dark water wide as a man, lurching up and down, sloshing onto the boat ramp and sliding back beneath the ice. Bill slapped the steering wheel, saying, "How about that? How about that?" while Kelly hunched over the gear shift, her hair in tangles, panting as if she just had the best sex of her life. Staring at the open water, I realized that I felt pretty good too, lost and safe all at the same time. I was tingling from head to toe, realizing that this would have made Kayla laugh and smile. She'd probably ask to go again, her lithe body bouncing atop the cab seat. Then all of us were laughing. I felt like I was in high school again, could do anything I wanted. I had the entire globe to explore, and my cheeks began to hurt. I was smiling so hard, knowing that with one simple word, yes, I could head into the Minnesota wild with a woman I loved. I didn't care what came next. To no one in particular, I said, "This is why I call Bill." Bill slapped the wheel once more, turned toward me, grinning like an idiot. He slapped Kelly's thigh, hard. "Show ain't over yet," he said. He stomped the gas and we all lurched back with the truck roaring quickly onward into the night. The snow beneath us sprayed as high as the front windows of each house we passed, speeding deeper into the subdivision beside the river. Bill finally slowed down at the edge of the subdivision, the truck's engine growling as we rolled to the end of a cul-de-sac and turned parallel with an ordinarily vinyl-sided beige house. My parents' farm, I realized, wasn't more than 3 miles from here. But this subdivision was entirely new. When I was a kid, the shore of this river held nothing but oaks and pines, under which I had spent many an afternoon throwing out line for fish. Now, I had no idea who lived here, not in any of these houses. Bill said, "Jake, get out and ring the bell on this one." He was pointing to the house we were parked beside. By now the fog of Bun's fireside had cleared from my head considerably, and any drunken heroism I possessed I had spent while clutching at the oh shit handle in Bill's truck, crossing the river. In any case, I felt I had had my fun. I was sure Kayla had awoken more than once, worried about where I was. I said, "Forget it, take me home, Bill." Bill feigned an expression appropriate for talk with a 2-year-old. "What?" he said, full of a mocking type of pout. "Are you too scared to ring the bell? Too tuckered out already, Jakey Poodle?" Kelly stepped in. "Bill, maybe we ought to get out of here." Already, more than a few motion lights had flicked on because of our trucks passing. And it wouldn't be long before the engine's idle rumbling would wake whoever wasn't already up. In my coat pocket, I rolled my wedding band between my fingers and considered marching the 3 miles home. Wearing sneakers and cotton socks, I knew I would freeze my toes off, maybe catch a low-grade hypothermia and walking beneath the now clear, cold sky. But if I left now, I could maybe make it home before everyone was awake for good, growing angry and worried about why I hadn't come home. I opened my door, about to leave. Bill must have sensed my intentions. He said, "Yeah, Jake, just go. You're even more of a coward now than you were in high school, so just run on home. Go on and tell your folks you'll be hiding out in the big city for another couple of years." Or, "Wait," he said, "that's right, you're moving away again. So run on and disappear into your log cabin." I sat with one leg on my car seat, the other hanging out the open truck door. The thought of a private cabin in the woods should have had me floating. I should have been running home. But for some reason my bones were made of railroad ties, and I was wondering where my boyhood exuberance for something as cool as a cabin in the woods had gone. The rearview mirror on the open door reflected these stupid beige houses all buried in snow, and now more than anything I became upset about how everything here had changed in my absence. I started to feel sick in a way that hurt my teeth, felt like I had been chomping on ceramic all night. And though I knew it was stupid and insignificant, now it angered me to know that I'd never be able to fish the shoreline again without trespassing. It hurt my gums to know that the dirt racetrack I'd carved out with my bike was now some stranger's manicured lawn. In place of a forest, there was now this icy pavement, streets by the names of Oak Lane and Pineview Circle, and this place I had grown up with as a boy, it was gone. Bill was right, I had been hiding out in the city, and something had shifted in me because of it. That muddy and mischievously happy kid who used to drop hay bales on his father as he passed through the barn was long gone. Now, I imagined someone like me would step out the front door of one of these beige houses to shout at a dirty little kid who also looked something like me to get his bicycle off the lawn. Then I was doubled over, my head hanging from the truck, dry heaving because it was not the booze that I had to expel. And so a few evading cries later, when Kelly Green asked in a pleading sort of manner, "Where are you going, Jake?" I left the truck door open and kept on walking. "I'm ringing this guy's bell," I said. Bill was hollering with the light before I could finish the walk to the front door. On the stoop, I turned to catch him jogging around his truck and snipping the rope that held a big blue tarp over the truck's bed. Kelly Green was doing a lot of fidgeting beneath the light of the cab, playing nervously with her hair, looking for Bill in her rear view. Bill grabbed the corner of the tarp and tugged at it wildly then to reveal, in the middle of the truck's bed and standing unusually high, one automatic snowblower. Somehow, maybe because I already knew it was there, I could smell the manure in the truck's bed from the front of this stranger's house. Bill leapt into the bed, fired up the snowblower, and the small engine screamed in a high pitch above the rumble of his still idling truck. The air smelled of oil and exhaust then, and Bill cranked on the blower's PTO, whooping his free hand above his head like some rodeo cowboy. I dove into the snow of the neighboring house as the shit began to fly. I didn't even get a chance to ring the bell. Not like it mattered though, the clumps of manure began pelting the siding, the front windows, the garage door, thump, 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 while Bill worked the snowblower across his truck's bed, arching cow shit into the night and across the snow onto this poor sap's front door. A series of lights shot on within the house. Bill screamed at me to get back in the truck, but I laid in the snow, watching like an idiot as he drove the snowblower straight off the tailgate, the small machine grinding out some awful screeching sound as it skipped across the sidewalk and halted to a stop in a snowbank. Come on, Bill screamed. He jumped from the bed, waving me toward his truck. I asked, "What about the snowblower?" From his side of his head poking above the cab, Bill pointed frantically toward the house. "It's his," he said. The front door opened then to reveal a large silhouette, and I took off to the truck, leaving past my still open passenger side door, knocking heads with Kelly Green as I dove into the cab. And we sped from the cul-de-sac in the subdivision, our tires squealing, the smell of dead rubber hanging heavily in the cab as we went. I was breathing too hard to ask, but Kelly Green was more than willing to talk. She couldn't sit still, was scooting around in her seat with a caged sort of fury. "What in the fuck was that, Bill? What in the hell was all that about?" Bill leaned over the wheel, looked at me with a grin so big I swore I could hear the spittle crack in his cheeks as he said, "Remember that mountain girl, Jake?" I said I did. I said, "How could I forget? She's banging her cowboy boots along that schmuck's model countertops now," Bill said, "or at least she was before we showed up." We sped up a big hill then, at the top of which I could look out over the valley where my parents' farm lay. Its snowy fields, a big square buffer around the dark-framed house where Kayla still lay sleeping in the night, dreaming about Minnesota maybe, and the big flat blue of Lake Superior. Maybe, as with all her nights out learning the tango, she was dreaming about going there without me. And so I told Bill we couldn't let her get away with something like that, not leastways without putting up a fight. The end.
We're going to take a short break. There's going to be some music. Feel free to grab a beer or something to eat.
Oh, yes.
I'm fine up here. I'm okay here. Yeah. It's fine, thanks.
So, here's the sad thing. Greg just gave me this picture and I realized it ran all the No. But it's like, I always dress like a pirate club. No, I'm not wearing an iPad for one, but... all my formalities is dressing like a pirate. So. There's not only
Yeah, I know.
Hello, hello. 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 Hello.
Probably actually the best position was like this. Probably.
Hello.
Maybe he should bring these toys.
Hello.
It's transportation.
I know. Who doesn't look at my drone? She's getting it.
Hi, we're going to try not to disturb you guys too much with songs. Yeah, we're going to sing some songs. This is the first time that we've actually done anything, so we most likely will have a mistake or mess up. But do it and I guess we're just Desperation. Also, you just quit smoking, so when you quit smoking and like a week after, you're coughing a lot of stuff up. It's gonna be super fun. This is great.
Now you gotta do like a
When there's voices in the hall, I look for you, but there's no one at all, not at all. No, you're not in my hall. I lay me down and I'm going to sleep, praying for you, my soul to keep. I'm awake all night. No, I'm not alright. No, I won't sleep tight. I'll be awake all night. So when there is a creak in the floor, I pretend it is a knock at my door. Or if I hear a rustle outside, I'm at the window staring through the night. And I remember why I came to this place, to get away from you and not see your beautiful face at my door. Through the people in my door. You know how it goes when I see you on the street. I duck for cover and I fall off my feet. You won't see me. You know our eyes cannot meet. Oh, you can't see me. Oh, please don't see me. So when there's a creak in the floor, I pretend it's you moving at my door, and every rustle that I hear outside, it comes from you, so lonely in the night. I'm looking for you to my love. Where are you, my love? I'm looking for you, my love. Is that you, my love? I'm looking for you to my love. Where are you, my love? My love, my love. I have your number, I know I could call to hear your voice and not hear you fall in love with me again. Don't hang up on me again. I pull my cuffs tight around my neck. I close my eyes knowing I will expect to see you
I'll keep on the light. Up on light. I'm looking for you to my love. Where are you, my love? I'm looking for you, my love. Is that you, my love? I'm looking for you to my love. Where are you, my love? I'm looking for you, my love. Is that you, my love? I'm looking for you to my love. Where are you, my love? I'm looking for you, love.
Here's the cigarettes.
Journey!
Not tonight, baby.
Don't stop, please.
Keep, let a copy step one down on my head. One you better keep my keep, give me one for you. I got the other tree, and while you're sleeping, slide up to that bed. Keep my key, keep my key. I know you don't want me, I know you're already out,
But I'm coming inside anyway.
coming inside anyway.
But I'm coming inside anyway.
Coming inside anyway.
Wait by your bed. Wait by your bed. Wait by your bed. Wait by your bed.
Keep my key. In no time, I bet your bottom dollar. You need it. You take me out to steakhouse. Got my meat, feed me, eat with me. Let it on my ribs, supplemental from my meat. You just do your fucking knife, not just taste I wanna burn. And I am here for you. Keep my key, stay home, stay home, keep my key, stay home, stay home, keep my key. My copy step one down on my head, in my car, I got one everywhere. Keep my key, give me like a lost, hiding in the belly of the tree. I'll be chilling while you're sleeping. Slide to that chair. Keep my key, keep my key. I know you don't want me, I know you're already out,
But I'm coming inside anyway. But I'm coming inside anyway.
Wait by your bed, wait by your bed. Keep my key. In no time, I bet your bottom dollar. You need it. You take me out to steakhouse. Got my meat, feed me, eat with me. Let it baby on my ribs, supplemental from my lips. Here's your food, your fucking night. Not just taste on the Friday and time. I am here for you. Keep my key, stay home, 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 stay home.